Okay, I want to welcome everybody to our Payroll Hot Topics. And before we get started, I want to introduce some people that will be presenting the information to you this afternoon, as well as providing some support. So we have Lindsay Anastasio, our Assistant Controller. We have Belinda Ogorick, the HR Director. We have Wanda Martin, our Payroll Manager. Jennifer Story, our Payroll Business Analyst. And then we also have Jacob Keel, he deals with international payroll in the payroll office. And they are all here to present information to you as well as answer any questions you may have. So today's agenda, we're going to review 9 over 12 employees and summer instruction. Wanda's going to talk to you about all of that. We're going to talk some about COVID leave analysis, some things that business managers can encourage supervisors and employees to do during this time. Also, COVID leave, qualifying reasons, pay limitations, and approvals. Lindsay, Wanda, and Belinda will be speaking to you about that. And then finally, Jennifer Story will end the presentation with talking to you about W-4 and tax withholding for federal and state. And then also Jacob Keel will be your person of contact in the payroll department for that area. So I'm going to pass this presentation over to Wanda, and she's going to get started with 9 over 12 employees.
Hi, everybody. I hope you're having a great day. The sun is shining. It is beautiful in my part of the world, and I'm grateful for that. Before I get started, I want to take a little bit and go off of Joanne's agenda, but not a big detour. And I want to thank everybody who's worked very hard with their employees, new and present, to get their direct deposit set up. We've had great turnaround in that. We've mailed the smallest number of checks this last pay period. We processed for mailing the smallest number of checks that we've ever processed. So thank you very, very much. Keep up the good work. These meetings have a purpose, and it's great when we can see it being materialized. So thank you very, very much for working with that direct deposit process. If you have any questions about it as you go through it in the future, just reach out and let us know. Just continue to encourage it, continue to have your employees embrace it, and continue to stress how important it is that it happens. This current situation we're working in kind of demonstrates the importance of that. So thank you very, very much. I want to appreciate that before I got into all of this other discussions that we come across today. I want to start with the 9 over 12 deduction. This topic came up. I was having a discussion with another department, and they asked, was there any changes over a 9 over 12 process? And just as a reminder, to remind everybody that this deferral payment plan that was known as a 9 over 12 deduction ended when we converted into PeopleSoft on 3/31/2019. That no longer exists. Communications were sent out to inform everybody that deduction was going away and that they'd have to set up new processes if they wanted to spread their pay over a 12-month period. And what we recommended was that you set up a second direct deposit, which is kind of leading into the discussion I had already kind of leads into this, but set up a second direct deposit account so that you could have the payroll department deposit that amount that you were not anticipating needing until those future 3 months when you don't get a direct paycheck, put it into a second account, and then pull it out of that account when you are at the period to where you're no longer receiving a regular paycheck from the university because you're a 9-month employee. So if you want to stress that to your employees or kind of have some kind of discussion with them, if you want to, follow up and have them discuss it with us, and that's great, but we just don't do that deduction anymore. If an employee was a 12-month employee and becomes a 9-month employee, they do not continue to get paid over 24 pay periods. They're only paid over the 18 pay periods. So you have to keep that in mind as you're changing employee status. Let them know that they are not going to receive those 24 paychecks. They're only going to receive 18, and they need to think of a method that would allow them to continue to receive funds into their household over that entire 12-month period, which is a 24 pay period cycle. Does anybody have any questions over that? I just wanted to stress that because it seems like a small point, but when you have employees that have their budget planned out over a year, this can impact them. So just kind of keep that in mind when you're talking to them and when you're changing over from a 9-month to a 12-month employee, and from 12 month to a 9-month employee, sorry. Okay. Now I want to talk a little bit about summer instruction because all this is all connected. Most people, if they're going to have instructions, a summer research position or a summer instruction position, aren't going to be impacted by that 9 to 12 month. But we kind of wanted to go through the summer instruction and kind of let you know where we are now. We've processed over like 1,000 new hires, and Belinda can come in and correct me if I'm wrong, between HR and payroll for the summer. And we have a process set up that we think is working pretty well at the university. Matter of fact, we take a little bit of pride in that. So, and so we just want to kind of stress the accounting piece of it again, because it all bears down to the accounting, and we want to make sure that as the process happens, the forms are put through the process, that the accounting ends up correct, so that when you're looking at your grants, you're looking at your summer budgets, you have the right information in the right place. So you got to make sure that you verify all your chart strings that are you using in your combo code. There's a combo code query out there, SC_PY combo code _codes, that lets you search for active chart field information, because if you don't have the correct chart field information on the form, it can slow down the process, which slows down the employee getting paid, which means that someone could possibly miss a pay period and cause frustration. One of our objectives this summer is to alleviate as much frustration for the employee, for you, and for ourselves as possible. The employee first and foremost, because we want them to go through a summer where they don't run into a situation to where they get frustrated with their pay. So that's one of our main objectives as we go through our summer process this year. Just remember, if you don't have the correct chart strings, like I said, it delays process and can delay pay. The summer account codes that you need to be aware of is that for when you have a summer instruction, that is 51330, and for ecom, which is a summer research grant position, is 51330. So be sure it's 51300 and 51330 is the summer instruction, so you haven't got it confused. So that you're using the right account number for the position. Once again, summer instruction is 51330, and ecom, which you call research, is your 51300. So as you're filling out the form, you're documenting and reviewing your combo code information, make sure that your account numbers are correct, because you don't want research to end up where your instructions should end up, and it will impact your analysis when you're going through and you're doing your budget analysis for the summer, and you want your grants to be correct as often and as quickly as possible. So that's why it's key that you look at these accounts and make sure that it's going to the right account. Once again, I'll say it a third time, ecom is 51300 and summer instruction is 51330. I know they're close, which is why they're easy to get confused, like I got my tongue twisted, but just be aware of where you're putting it and that it's being charged to the right account. And once again, we've had great turnaround on paperwork. Let's keep it up. We just want to encourage everybody to avoid that whole late paperwork discussion, because that's the hardest discussion there is to have with employees when you're trying to explain why their paycheck didn't come through when they anticipated it, because someone had paperwork being late. So we want to make sure the accounting is correct, everything is properly documented, so that it can get to us in a timely manner.
Wanda.
Mm-hmm.
This is Belinda. Hey, y'all. I just want to reiterate what Wanda just said there, and please remember the deadlines for paperwork to be into the central HR office is located on the HR website, and those are the deadlines that we have that has been published, and even summer instruction have to meet those deadlines to ensure that they are input timely. And I would add one other thing: we're seeing a lot of sometimes duplicate paperwork being sent in to us. Please try not to have that occur. And I know sometimes it's hard, but when there's duplicate paperwork, we cannot promise we're going to always catch it, because we have many instructors who may teach multiple courses. And one other thing is that, I just had it in my thoughts. The summer compensation is from 5/16 to 8/15. We're sending a lot of paperwork on the HR side coming in that the end date is surpassing 8/15. That's going to delay processing. We're going to be sending those back because it cannot be past 8/15 for summer compensation. Sorry, Wanda.
Oh, no, 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 that's important. 'Cause she's very right. So what Belinda just said was key. You got to keep in mind the dates of the summer terms because that matters when we're going through and processing this paperwork and making sure that you don't send in duplicate paperwork. So we kind of went back and forth with, do we put that multiple paperwork bullet point in here? I'm glad Belinda brought it up. So make sure that you don't try to send in paperwork for the same position that you've already got paperwork processed for. So it's just a case of going through and just doing a verification. I think our last bullet point here says, make sure you carefully review the document for accounting. Just make sure you review it for your dates and make sure you review it also for duplication. It's just an extra review step in the process. And I think, like I said, I think we're headed in a great direction. And I think we can continue to do so. We just got to keep that timely paperwork. We got to keep in mind those dates that Belinda mentioned and keep in mind that you don't duplicate any paperwork.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Lindsay. Now that we have a couple pay periods under our belt with processing two different types of COVID leave, we just wanted to stress the importance of business managers and HR contacts working with the different supervisors in their area to help them understand the different types of COVID leave and the hours that the employees qualify for. Because once those hours expire, it's really important that salaried employees especially are recording the correct hours on their time card, either sick leave or annual leave, leave without pay. Wanda will go into more about that, but we just really wanted to stress the importance of supervisors and truly analyzing their employees' time cards and helping us out so that we make sure that employees aren't overpaid.
Okay, and I guess I'm going to kind of pick up a little bit about where Lindsay left off, and I'm going to welcome, Belinda and Jennifer's input in this discussion. We want to make sure as we go through and we fill out the time for the COVID leave that we are aware of employees that are going to receive a scheduled paycheck because they receive a semi that is already determined based on their employment status and a salaried employee. And if you do not properly complete the leave portion of the ITAMs, then that employee will receive pay when they should not have, meaning that they've gone through all their COVID leave, they've gone through all their normal type leave, and they do not have enough leave to cover their additional semi amount in their pay period, then they will be paid and not entitled to that pay. That category of time has to be classified as a leave without pay. We sent out a ITAMS notification, I think last week, and in that ITAMS notification, I tried to stress that you've got to be aware of what leave without pay means and what the impact is on a paycheck if it is not properly classified. If an individual is not properly classified with leave without pay, they will be paid for time they did not work, which will lead them to be overpaid. And we're trying our best to avoid overpayments. So it's important that you get the employee to understand as they go through, if they have gone through all their COVID leave, if they've gone through their normal leave, that some adjustment has to be made to their pay to accommodate that leave without pay period, because we do not and cannot pay them for that period. Jennifer Story, do you want to add anything to that? I guess she's thinking
Sorry, I was unmuting. No, you're fine.
Sorry.
No, I think she pretty much just covered it, but just making sure that if those employees aren't working, that leave without pay is getting entered on the timesheet so that they're getting paid accordingly. Or if they're using a code that is being paid at 2/3, if they're wanting to use their own leave to supplement, that they're putting that on the timesheet as well. So just, managers and supervisors just paying extra close attention to what they're approving. They always should be, but especially during this time with all the different codes and people working some hours, part-time, that kind of thing. So, I think just paying close attention to what you're approving.
Yeah, and as we've gone, like Lindsay said, we've gone through a couple of these, and one of the issues that we've found is that, some of these employees are getting awfully close to having no leave left. And if we don't watch this now, because this is available through the end of December, so if we don't watch this now, we could run into potential overpayment situations, and you all know we try our best to avoid those. So just make sure that there's a in-depth review of the time for the employees taken, and that it doesn't lead to a leave without pay situation. Does anybody have any questions on that? And I know it seems like, in every presentation we go over this COVID, but it's important that it is stressed that the analysis is done at the front end so that we don't end up at the back end trying to collect an overpayment situation, or we don't short an employee pay that they anticipate receiving, because at this time everybody needs every penny they can get. So let's just make sure we do enough of an analysis at the beginning, as Jennifer said, at the front end, so that we make it as painless as possible for the employee and ourselves when it comes to that whole overpayment process.
Yeah, I do want to say that we also have a tool developed for supervisors, and we'll get that out on our website shortly. But we have developed a revised calculator that will help supervisors and employees determine how many supplemental hours they'll need to add to their time card, either in terms of annual leave, sick leave, or leave without pay.
Because we're doing our best to make it as seamless as possible, and so that the employee can know the amount that they need to put in, so they don't end in a leave without pay a situation. Belinda, do you want to add anything to any of this COVID discussion?
I would just say this is all brand new for all of us, so we certainly understand that there's a lot going on and a lot to learn about this. I would just remind that with EPSL, the employee paid sick leave, when that is approved, the supervisor does get a notification of it's being approved and how many up to hours. We've had some people actually try to apply for it again after they've used it. It is not intended to continue. You get paid up to 80 hours based on your past 6 months of work. And we did all that up at when this all occurred in beginning of April, end of March, when this became effective. So just remember, we've sent some things out saying, we've had students apply for it again because they started a new job or new with USC in another capacity or anything. I'm assuming if they're being hired now, they actually are able to work from home, or that they are coming onto campus and they've been approved to come onto campus to work, and they really shouldn't be in need for that EPSL leave as of right now if they were rehired. But we are getting people trying to get it again, and they've already used up their time. So I would be cautious of that and just make sure you're aware. And like I said, the supervisors do get a notification for the EPSL, so they know how much leave is approved for that employee.
And like Lindsay said, we're going to send out a calculator, and it kind of will give the employee some indication of where we're going. These are the COVID leave earn codes, just so that everyone would have an idea of what these codes are. They go through and do the analysis for your budgets, and look at the distributed data information, and it's just to give you a basis for analysis. I think, Joanne, did you want to add anything to this?
No, I'm good. It's just a way for supervisors and employees to identify those earned codes when they're looking at their pay, and also looking at HCM distribution. When they're looking down into the details, the earned codes will be listed there.
Yep. So it's for analysis purposes, to give you some idea of who's taken what time from your department at an analysis level.
Yes, and keeping in mind that emergency family medical leave is paid at 67% of the employee's regular rate of pay, and also the COVID emergency sick leave, if they've chosen reasons 4 through 6, which we'll discuss next, that those are also paid at 67% of the employee's regular rate of pay.
And that's key to remember when you're going through and trying to determine how much additional leave you should take. The COVID qualifying reasons, I think we've gone through these a couple of times, but just to give you an idea, the reasons 1 through 6. 1 is the employee is subject to a federal, state, or local quarantine or isolation order related to COVID-19. 2 is the employee. I'm sorry, ma'am.
No, I was just going to say one thing about number 1. As you know, that was a FAQ that we put out there about EPSL that said, you know, if due to the quarantine, I think it's Executive Order 2020 that was going on early on, that everybody would basically fall under 1. Please remember now that that order as of June 1 is getting, you know, that order is no longer effective as of June 1 going forward. So if anybody is applying for this type of leave going forward, as of right now, we're not under a federal, state, or local quarantine under the Executive Order 2020 anymore. So I wanted to make sure that was kind of pointed out here. So that was just my little tidbit of information there.
And that's important information because those reasons matter as you fill in the forms requesting leave. So that's very key what Belinda just said. 2, the employee has been advised by a healthcare provider to self-quarantine due to concerns related to COVID-19. 3, the employee is experiencing symptoms of COVID-19 and seeking a medical diagnosis. 4, the employee is caring for an individual who is subject to an order as described in paragraph 1 or has been advised as described in paragraph 1. 5, the employee is caring for a son or daughter of such employee if the school or place of care of the son or daughter has been closed or the child care provider of such son or daughter is unavailable due to COVID-19. And 6, the employee is experiencing any other substantially similar condition specified by the Secretary of Health and Human Services in consultation with the Secretary of the Treasury and the Secretary of the State. And the reason I want to read them this time is that we normally just flash them up and say, have a go at it. But I wanted to just read them through because you can read that these, understand these are all distinct reasons and that you have to make sure that the reason that you choose apply. And like Belinda said, to give everyone on our side an opportunity to weigh in on any comments they may have on any of these reasons from their perspective, from an HR or payroll perspective. Does anybody have any questions? And I know we go through these reasons a lot. I just want to make sure everyone can relate to them, understand them, and understand where they apply. Pay limitations and approval, reasons 1 through 3 are paid at 100% of employees' regular pay rate, limited to $511 per day or a total of $5,110. Reasons 4 and 6 are paid at 67%. You know, that reason code we flashed up, it told you which were 67% and which were 100%. And it's limited to $200 a day or $2,000 total. And so just wanted you guys to have once again, and I did the limitations, have knowledge, and just have knowledge so that your employees can be correctly filling out the information when they request leave. And remember that all these applications have to go through HR for approval, and you have to submit one for each position. And all this can be found at the calculator is where Lindsay was referring to earlier, will be available in the payroll toolbox. I wanted to speak to you a little bit about the W-4 withholding, federal and state. I'm just going to introduce it a little bit, and then Jennifer is going to actually go through a demo on it. But just wanted everyone to know that we now are able to, as of June the 11th, we should have the ability to electronically process our own W-4s for both federal and state. Currently, they're being uploaded manually by the payroll department, and they're being submitted through us through ITAMS. That process was published, but now beginning June 11th, and you will have communications come out there to this effect from both HR and payroll, an employee should be able to do their own W-4. And so I think we're just gonna flip through and let Jennifer pick up now and move with it.
Yep. So once this becomes available in production, when the employee logs in to employee self-service, they'll of course click on the payroll tile. They'll see on the left-hand side a tax withholding federal and tax withholding state. So for the first example, they would click on the federal. The screen in step 2 would populate. They can it basically just pulls up an online W-4 where they can make changes accordingly. It walks them through the steps. There's step 1, 2, 3. I believe the next slide goes on. It was kind of long. So step 2 is continued for step 4 and any claim exemptions they have. So they would fill it out however they needed to. They would then hit submit. Once they hit submit, step 3 would populate. As a verification, their USC ID will populate, and then they will enter the last 4 digits of their social security number. So this is, just to confirm that they are making changes for themselves and they are who they say they are. They'll click OK, and then they'll get a submit confirmation. Now it will say right here, due to the timing, this may not reflect until the next payroll. So it kind of just depends where we are in the payroll processing schedule. If it'll hit the current payroll or the next one. So it's just a little message there. And that's pretty much it. That's all they need to do. Then they can go back into it and, see the changes they've made. The next one is the state, the W-4 state form. That's new for this year. So they would click on tax withholding state. The form would pop up. It's a much shorter form, but they would fill out the information in the different sections and then hit submit. Once they hit submit on the next slide, it's the same thing. They'll verify their identity by entering the last 4 of their social and then click OK, and then they'll get that same confirmation that, it may or may not reflect until the next payroll. So it's pretty user friendly. I think they'll probably like it a lot better than having to fill out the form and upload it. So we're excited about it. And if they have any questions, feel free to reach out to payroll. I believe Jake is the contact. I think we have a contact slide. But if they have any questions, it's set to go out June 11th. Like Wanda said, we will send out some communication once that's up and running for the employees to use.
The only thing I would add is that submit successful piece, if we can just remember to let the employee know it all depends on the timing, because we have a tendency to think we're in a real-time world, and when we go in and make these changes that they're automatically their next paycheck is going to be different. So it just all depends on the timing of the submission, same as with the direct deposit information. So just make sure if you're having conversation with them that you kind of stress that timing makes a big difference. I'm sorry, you can go for it.
No, you're fine. That's very important. And it's the same as it would be with the paper form. So there's no difference. It just depends on when we get it and where we are in the processing, cycle, whether it'll hit this payroll or the next.
All right. While you guys are thinking about some questions that you want to ask these guys before we end our session today, just want to let you know that today's session and PowerPoint presentation will be uploaded to the Payroll Toolbox. And you can see the COVID-19 ITAMS calculator instructions section. That information, the presentation is there, but we have pulled down the recording and the calculator, and the new recording and calculator should be made available to all of you by end of day Wednesday, unless something changes, but that's where you're going to find it. So I would go out there and check on Wednesday. We do have a question. We have remotely located staff members who live in other states. For the state W-4, will they still fill it out, the W-4 in HCM, or will they need to do a separate one for their state of residence?
Jacob, do you have input for that question?
I'm not sure on that actually yet. Jennifer, do you know if the state form will be customized based on the state that it is listed as their address?
I don't believe so, but let me follow up to be 100% sure. So we'll get back to you on that.
Okay. And when we send the communication out, we'll just have a blurb on there now. There was a point that Jacob had communicated earlier that we want to stress, which is that the international employees will not be able to use the non-resident alien international employees will not be able to use the electronic W-4 because the IRS restricts it. Is that correct, Jacob?
That's correct. Now, I just want to clarify, that's not necessarily all internationals. It is only internationals who have been denoted as non-resident alien. And if an international employee has a question about that, they can contact us, and we can explain their non-resident alien findings for them. But that is due to IRS restrictions. Non-resident aliens cannot just fill out whatever they want to on the W-4. It's restricted by the IRS. So for that reason, if they're a non-resident alien, we will they'll get a message that says this function does not work for them when they go to self-service and to contact payroll. Right now, that their process will continue where the International Payroll Office issues them a specific W-4 for them to complete and return to payroll. I think that's it.
If we could just remember, we're encouraging the use of this electronic W-4. So any changes, we're encouraging and ask that everyone go through this process. New hires will be going through this process. Like I said, HR will send out a communication on how to do that. Belinda, did you want to add anything to that, or are we good?
I don't have anything to add to that.
Okay, so all the communications will go out and we'll move forward.
All right, we have another question. Does leave without pay have to be entered in ITAMs for employees that are EFMLA and choose not to use their own leave supplement?
Jennifer, can you address that?
No, they don't have to. If they just want to, get paid the 2/3 rate, then they'll all automatically be shorted and only paid at the 2/3 rate.
But they're aware of it, so that should be fine. As long as everyone's aware that their pay will be shortened, why, then we're good.
Now, if they run out and aren't using EFMLA for certain day, like for full days, they may want to put leave without pay in that. So it kind of, unfortunately, it kind of depends on the situation. But if they're using a full week of EFMLA, for instance, and they, don't want to supplement with their own leave, they just want to get paid the shorted 2/3 amount, then they don't need to do anything but enter the EFMLA.
Okay. Let's move to the contact page before while we're waiting for some other questions. Oh, go ahead.
No, it's okay. One thing, on the W-4s for different states, they would have to fill out a paper form. Unfortunately, the only one on employee self-service at this time is the South Carolina one for, most of our employees. The other ones will still be paper.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you have any W-4 questions, Jake Keel is your guy. You can reach out to him directly. For questions regarding 9/12 deductions, you can reach out to Wanda Martin. For any questions regarding fringe or COVID leave, you can reach out to uscpay at mailbox.sc.edu. All right, and I'm not sure, we don't have any questions right now. Just remember, you have a lot of resources that you can reach out to and are always available to answer questions, any questions you may have. Okay, ladies, you guys have anything else to add before we end our session today?
Oh, no, I think we're fine.
And Jake, sorry.
No.
All right. Okay, that's great, everybody. Have a great rest of your day, and I'm sure we'll see you for our next Payroll Hot Topics. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate your time. Thank you.